In this video, we'd like to show the new native MQTT embedded broker that is now supported in version 1.5 of FactoryTalk Optix. As you can see, I'm using the latest version 1.5. If you look at the release notes for version 1.5, we can see underneath data connectivity that there is now native support for MQTT embedded broker, as well as the client that can be a publisher and a subscriber. Previously to 1.5 release, MQTT was possible, but with the addition of NetLogic. Now it is a native feature. So inside of version 1.5, I have a project that's already created. Underneath the project view, we now have a new entry called MQTT. If I right-click on MQTT, I have the option to add new, either a client or a broker. So FactoryTalk Optix will now support an embedded broker that can support up to 25 connections. So I choose broker, and then all there is to do next is set up some of the basic properties for that broker, such as what is the listener port, defaults to 8883. The max connections is set to 25. That's a limitation in the current release. You can change your quality of service settings. With MQTT, you have three options: 0, 1, or 2 for your QoS. You can change the maximum in-flight message settings. You can change the max queued messages, as well as the message size limit, as well as the retain setting. The other option to consider here is, do we want to enable certificate by changing this to either true or false? For this example, I'm just going to stay with false. Now, user authentication will be a feature that comes in the next release of Optix version 1.6. That's all there is to do as far as setting up the embedded broker in FactoryTalk Optix. So for this example, I have a screen created with a tag. I'm going to control a level, and I'm going to publish that level to the embedded broker, and then have a subscriber also see that data. So to become a publisher, I will go back here to the MQTT object underneath project view, and I will choose new, and I'm going to choose client. Now when I choose client, there are a few properties for the client at the client level, such as the broker address, the port, and the client ID. Since I'm going to use the embedded broker that's going to be in my FactoryTalk Optix application, I'm going to leave this as a local host. I will leave the port set to 8883 to match the port of the broker, and I will leave the client ID as the default name for the moment. The other options here is, do you want to enable security and certificates? I'm going to turn this off in both cases, since we're not using security and we're not going to use a certificate to communicate to the internal embedded broker. Once I've set these settings, one last thing to do is come back here to the client that I've added, right-click on it, and say New Publisher. You can see we have the option for subscriber or publisher. I'm going to be publishing data to the broker, and so therefore I'm choosing publisher. The properties for the publisher are just a few, such as the sampling mode. Do we want to be periodic, none, or change in value? I'm going to choose change in value just so that it'll only update whenever there's a change in the value of this tag that I'm going to be publishing. The other properties to set here are folder. So the folder is going to be, where is the data coming from inside of the Optix project? Now, for this example, underneath the model folder, I've added a variable just called tank1 level. So this tank1 has a level that I will change, it's going to be put into this tank1 level variable. So for the folder, I'm going to choose model, since that is where the data and the variable resides. For the topic, I have the ability to name this topic whatever I want. Part of MQTT is the ability to create these topics and organize your data however you see fit. For this example, I'll just call the topic Tank1. And then we have the same quality of service settings that we saw at the broker, be it either 0, 1, or 2. I'll change it to 2 to match the broker. It doesn't have to be the same, but I'll change it to that. And then there's also a retain feature. Retain setting could either be true or false. I'll leave it at the default of false right now. And that's all there is to do. We quickly set up the broker. Then we set up a client, and we set up a publisher so that we're taking some data and publishing it to our embedded broker. All I got to do now is start the Optix application. So I'm going to use the emulator. This will just take a moment to start. So here's our project actually running in emulation mode. If I go to the MQTT broker page, we see the little screen I've created here. I have a tank, I have a level. I'm just showing kind of the data flow. So right now we have a level of 54. This variable is being sent to the publisher, being published to the embedded broker, and then we're going to have a subscriber that will be getting that information from this broker. So if I change the value, you can see now it's 80, and then I'm just showing that, hey, all of our subscribers will also see the value as 80. So to show that we actually are publishing information to the broker, if I open up a little MQTT test application called MQTT Explorer, I have a connection already configured for Optix. Basically, it's I just gave it the name Optix. We disable the certificate as well as the encryption, and we have it set to localhost in the 8883 port because everything's residing on my host computer right now. So localhost will be the host name. I'm going to choose connect. Now, since I've told it to only publish data upon change, I need to go ahead and force a change in the number. When I do that, we see that we get Tank1 showing here in my subscriber window, and we see Tank1 value is equal to 73. We can see back here in the application that it is 73. If I click on this, I can also take a moment. I can actually look at the change. Let me go ahead and make one more change in this. We can see now that we're going to get a little bit of a trend line in the subscriber tool, and I can see that I'm actually publishing my tank data, and my subscriber is receiving that data all from the embedded broker inside of FactoryTalk Optix. So new feature, version 1.5, and just wanted to show that it's pretty easy to set up, and you can get an MQTT embedded broker and publish data to that broker in just a matter of a few clicks within FactoryTalk Optix.